I'm Alex, and I'm here to share my vegan and allergy-friendly recipes inspired by my world travels. I'll be cooking while I'm traveling, so each new destination means a new kitchen and working with what I have. It will sometimes be a challenge, but I will always have the right tool for the job: creativity. My passion to explore the world is driven by my love for food. Traveling gives me the opportunity to experience new cuisines firsthand. The ingredients I will be using will be inspired by local flavor of each destination. Hi, I'm Alex, and welcome to my Parisian kitchen. This is the first time I've ever been to Paris, France, and this will be the first meal I'm cooking in Paris, France. So this will be fun for all of us, I hope. So welcome to my petite Parisian kitchen. How about a tour? We have our sink. I have a work area which I have a cutting board on. My electric 2 burners, a sliced bread toaster oven, a coffee maker, and a microwave. That means that if you notice, I do not have an oven to work with, so there will be a couple adaptations for this process. So without further delay, let's get started on my version of French onion soup. To begin with, I'm going to use go with yellow onions. You can use white as well. And we're just going to cut them into small slices. So this kitchen did come prepared with a knife, so I won't be using flatware for this meal. Some trade-offs, no oven, but I got a knife. I will be slicing them down the half. A very sharp knife, but I will make do. Go ahead and peel that off. Cut off the tip. Don't need that. And I'm going to leave the root on so it keeps everything together. Alright, now I got some slices. I'm going to start putting them in a bowl just to make room because this is a very small kitchen. And I will continue this process for all of my onions. Okay, the onions are cut. That was 5 yellow onions I cut. And I know it seems like a lot of onions, but they're going to cook down and be the majority of the soup that I'm going to create, so don't worry about that. With my onions cut, I'm going to be now creating the broth. For this to be a vegan French onion soup, normally the typical recipe asks for beef broth. I went searching for vegan vegetable broth. I couldn't find any, so I'm using vegetable bouillon cube, and we'll be preparing the broth that way. So, water. open my cube up. And to be clear, this was purchased at a vegan market, so I know it is a vegan bouillon cube. And in it goes. Let that bouillon. While that's going, I'm going to prepare the onions. For that, for the standard recipe, you would be using butter. I'm going to be using coconut oil. I'm going to use about 2 tablespoons. Call out 1. Call that 2. That get nice and hot. Once it's fully starting to sizzle, we'll add the onions in. This recipe is actually quite simple. It's just a little challenging to do in a tiny kitchen with limited tools. You really only need the onions, your broth or bouillon. You need some seasoning. I have a bundle of thyme with a bay leaf that I'm going to be tossing into the soup. It smells great. And some wine. Now I'm going to be using this open bottle of Cabernet Sauvignon. I'm using this because I started drinking it and I didn't particularly care for it, so I'm going to use it for cooking. You can use white wine, cooking sherry, as long as it's dry. That would be the ideal version. I'm using this because this is what I have. You could also, if you don't want to use any alcohol, you can substitute it for apple cider vinegar. Okay, I do have a spoon for the broth. Get that stirred up. You can see it start to dissolve here a little bit. It'll break down faster as the heat gets going. And as you can also see, our coconut oil is starting to break down. I'll be using this spatula. All right. That is totally liquefied. Now, here we go. In go the onions. It will seem like a lot at first, but they will break down and get and shrink. Listen to that sizzle. Along with the coconut oil and the onions, I'll be adding just a touch of salt, standard table salt. This will actually help draw out the moisture of the onions and help them saute faster. I'm going to reduce this down to about medium-high heat. Put my onions in there. You want to get all the oil on all the onions. Now, the onions are going to be going for about 30 to 45 minutes. Heads up. You want them to get nice and brown and caramelized, just so all of the coconut oil, the salt, and the bouillon will be fully absorbed and get the rich onion flavor. Now you can use whatever butter substitute or butter you want. Just know the onions are going to fully absorb that flavor. I personally enjoy coconut oil to cook with because once you actually start heating it up and putting things, it actually gets a rich, buttery type of taste, in my opinion. Alright, I'm going to just set a timer for 30 minutes to start with, and we'll take it from there and see how it goes. You can really smell the onions right now. And once they're cooking, you don't get that teary cry feeling like you do when you're cutting. Or I do. So I started with classic French onion soup because, one, I like it, and two, I feel like it's a great representation of classic French food. It originally started as a peasant food and then kind of elevated to being iconicized by the whole culture. There are lots of variations, depending on what ingredients you have access to, but this is mine. Okay, so my bouillon cube is fully dissolved. I'm going to be removing that from the heat, or just turning off the heat. And just like that, it's broth. As you can see here, that we're not even fully cooked yet at the 30-minute mark, which might go to 45, but they've already started to change color and greatly reduced. They're about half or more reduced down from what the full pile of onions was. And the smell is incredible. French onion soup has been known to be good for hangovers, and just to throw it out there, I am making this on the 31st of December. Tomorrow will be the 1st, and soup is always better the next day, so I think we'll be enjoying this a lot tomorrow. Okay, so my alarm's gone off, that was my 30-minute mark. Let's take a look. Now they've reduced even more since I last showed you, and they've definitely darkened up, but they're not quite the caramel color I want yet. So I'm going to let them go the next 15 minutes while keeping an eye on them constantly and stirring. I will also be scraping the bottom of the pot to make sure that all of the charred caramel flavor of the onion gets infused into the whole soup. Set this for another 15 minutes. God, it smells good. It really smells good. And that's 45. As you can see here, it's incredibly reduced down to almost the bottom of the pot, and we have a great brown caramel color. So from here, everything's in there. I'm going to add my vegetable bouillon. Add some pepper. I'm going to add my thyme and bay leaf bundle. The whole thing goes in the pot. Stir that in there. And some wine. I'm going to lower this to low heat and let it just cook for about 20 minutes. It's a very time-consuming but easy recipe. Now, some of you may have noticed that I did not add any more salt. It's because the bouillon cube already contains a lot of sodium, and I did add salt initially to the onions. And when you add salt to a large amount of onions and then they reduce down, it actually concentrates the flavor. So I'm going to let this cook for a while, and then I'm going to taste it before I add any more seasoning. As you notice that the color has darkened quite a bit. That is partially due to the caramelization of the onions as well as the red of the wine I used. If yours turns out a slightly different color, it's possibly because you use a different type of wine than me, so don't feel alarmed. Trust your taste buds. That's 20 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to remove it from the heat. Notice the color change. And now I'm also going to scoop out my bundle of thyme and bay leaf. Trying to leave as much onion as there as possible. That is good. Okay. Now, I was fortunate to find a vegan gluten-free baguette at the local vegan market, so I will be using this. Get a bread knife and cut slices about 1/2 inch to 1 inch. And since I do not have an oven, I will be using this toaster. I'm going to be toasting more than the bowls I'm going to be serving because they're a bit narrow compared to the bowl, and you want to cover all of the surface area. Okay, so while my toast is toasting, I will ladle out my soup bowls. I'm fortunate that this kitchen does have a ladle. So you go ahead and place your bread on top. There's a wide bowl. Looks like I'm doing almost all 4 for this one, and cook some more for the other one. Fully covered. Okay. Lastly, some vegan mozzarella. Beautiful. And you just want to, since I don't have a cheese grater, I'm just going to cut it up into tiny, tiny pieces. And we're going to sprinkle it on top. Okay. So, for the typical original French onion soup recipe, you would have this in an oven-safe bowl, and you would put it into an oven on the broil setting on high until everything is fully melted and a little bit of char on there. I don't have that, so I'll be using the microwave. This looks hot. My makeshift oven mitt. Look at that. Doesn't that look delicious? My lovely wife Emily is here to give me her first-hand opinion of this recipe. Now, Emily, have you ever had French onion soup before? Okay, so
I have not.
So it won't be a comparison to other French onion soups. It'll be purely about if she likes it or not.
You want to know why I have never had French onion soup?
Why is that?
Because my parents used to eat it when I was a child, and I thought it looked and smelled disgusting. So I decided I would never try it. And then here we are, years and years later. I've still never tried it.
And how does it look? Does it look disgusting?
No, it looks really good.
It's the first step.
You know how when you're a kid, you're like, ew, like onions or whatever.
Oh yeah, I was the same way. I actually did not care for this soup when I was a kid, but I like it now.
Yeah, so I just never remembered I should try it again. And plus then, you know, I couldn't because it had
cheese
and gluten in it. So I have no idea what to expect. I know that it smelled wonderful when you were cooking it. But I will say, like, the amount of onions that I saw you chop up and saute and put into the soup has me a little apprehensive.
Fair enough.
But
let's go for it.
You just dig in.
Dig in and try to get a little of everything.
The bread too.
Bread, the cheese, and the onions and the soup.
Oh, wow. It's almost like turns into like a pot pie experience or something.
Similar to, I'll give you that.
Okay.
Try not to burn yourself, it is quite hot.
Yeah, that's the thing about this protective layer is everything underneath is still piping hot.
Look at that steam coming off of that. I hope you don't burn your tongue.
Me too. I'm scared. Okay. Okay.
It's 2 bites and okay.
Very flavorful, like super flavorful, which is surprising because it has like one ingredient, onion.
Nearly. But that bay leaf and thyme bundle goes a long way, and so does the red wine.
So if I just try to I really want to taste just like what the broth tastes like.
Okay, so she sees the appeal.
I see the appeal. It's like a whole kind of, to me, your version of it presents more like a whole kind of meal in a bowl type thing, more of a stew or a casserole. Okay. Because everything is like soaked in. Oops, I dropped an onion.
There's plenty. Don't worry about it.
You know, everything is soaked in and made this like, I don't know what you would call like more of a stew situation than a soup. And like when I saw my parents eat this as a child, for instance, it was like just a very thin, like runny type soup. It didn't have like a lot of pieces of onion in it like that.
She keeps eating it. I take that as a good sign.
So yeah, I don't know exactly how like much of this I would want to consume in one meal.
Okay.
But definitely, like, I see the appeal. It's very flavorful.
Okay, well then, here's the question. How many plates would you give this?
I would say I am very pleasantly surprised. I would give it 4 plates.
4 plates.
It's comfy, it's wholesome, be really good for the winter, and like you said, I could see how this would be very good for hangovers. Since we have 3 bottles of champagne in the fridge right now, I can tell you I'm probably gonna like this better tomorrow.
I think I will too, but I want to enjoy it a little bit today too. And speaking of that, a reminder, for the time you see this, Happy New Year, everyone. Happy 2022.
Yes, Happy New Year. We're about to go experience that in real time.
In Paris.
New Year's in Paris.
Ooh. It's as good, if not better, than I could have ever hoped for, honestly.
Good.
So I'm happy with it personally.
I'm still amazed at the amount of flavor that is in here, and that the flavor is not overwhelmingly onion.
Right. There's more.
I don't know how that happens. I mean, I know you added wine, which I didn't mind this wine, so I'm drinking a little bit with it.
And we did use the coconut oil, which is not typical for the standard recipe, but I personally don't taste a hint of coconut at all. Not even a bit. Which was the
Not
goal.
at all. Yeah. It's very wholesome. It's very comfort food. Yeah.
Perfect. I'll take that. Thank you for watching, everyone. And if you would enjoy this recipe, please give this video a thumbs up. And if you want to see more recipes, you can subscribe to my channel, Alexander the Late. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section. Hope to hear from you guys. Later.